the idea of banking calories. There's two sides to this. Like, let's just say we know we're going out to a restaurant or a family dinner or something later this evening. A lot of times people will say, well, I know I'm going to overeat at that meal. I'm not going to eat anything all day. I'm going to fast all day and pig out at the meal. Like, what's your take on that? I'm just curious because it's not necessarily right or wrong. You can make it work, but do you do that yourself? Have you banked calories for a big meal later in the day?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have. I have actually before. Like for me, like breakfast is an easy meal to skip if I was gonna skip a meal. So if I look ahead and I'm like, all right, well tonight at dinner time we're gonna be having this giant pasta dinner with red sauce and meatballs and all that kind of stuff because I'm Italian and that's the kind of stuff that I like to eat. I'm gonna have a cheap meal. Then I might say like, all right, well, I'm gonna skip breakfast this morning, so that way I know going into dinner at night, I have consumed less calories than I typically would do on a given day. Do you do it?
I've tried both ways, and the way that I like to go about it now is I try and stick to my core meals as closely as I can. Maybe I will scale back a bit on like carbohydrates or something like that, but I'll still have the protein, still have the veggies, still have the meal consistency. What I found, this was a problem for me, and I from talking to a lot of coaching students, it's a common problem for a lot of people. When you skip meals early in the day, yeah, you can get away with it early in the day. I'm not hungry, it's okay, fine. Go all day, and then by the time the evening rolls around, when you do start to eat, it's like opening up the floodgates, and then there's no
Mm,
satisfying it. And very often, going all day with very little food, your blood sugar starts to dip, and then you're more open to making poor food choices because, hey, I didn't
mm.
eat anything all day. I deserve to have that slice of pizza. I didn't eat anything all day. I deserve to have those French fries or that dessert or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
easy to justify poor food choices that way. And that was one thing that I used to find myself falling into that trap of, okay, I'm not going to eat anything all day, but then I would gorge and overeat when I did have that meal later in the day. So now I
Hmm.
try and stabilize things with good food choices throughout the day. At the very least, I'm still going to have my protein and veggies throughout the day. Right? I'll have
Yeah.
that kind of stabilize things. And then if I do overeat a little bit for that meal later in the day, whether the family dinner, the restaurant meal, whatever it is, then I just make sure to get right back on track for the very next meal. One meal is not going to screw the process up. Like, you're not going to set your progress back by one meal, and vice versa. One healthy meal is not going to get you in shape, right? I mean, we got to look
Right.
at it. A healthy meal is not going to get you in shape. An unhealthy meal is not going to ruin your fitness, but it's the accumulation. It's like, what are we doing most of the time? What are we doing 80 to 90% of the time? That's what's going to have the impact. You could try it either way and see what works best for you. I mean, some people like going all day without eating and having that freedom and flexibility to eat a bit more in the evening, and that works for them. Personally, I find I'm more susceptible to make poor food choices if I do that. And plus my energy level very often dips throughout the day as well. At the very least, breakfast and lunch and then a dinner, like your 3 squares a day. I mean, that's the bare minimum, but I actually find I function better with even more frequent, like probably 4 or 5 feedings throughout the day versus just the fewer meals.